Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. And today, the Indigo Angels show. We have a special guest for you today. I wrote a blurb about it. I wrote tonight on the Typical Skeptic podcast. I welcome two of the most respected voices in the truth and disclosure community, my good friends Decode and Indigo Angel, for an explosive deep dive into current world events, hidden agendas, and multidimensional spiritual warfare. From global operations to energetic shifts on the planet, Gene and Indigo bring insider level analysis and higher consciousness insight that transcends the mainstream narrative. Expect powerful revelations about the state of humanity, planetary ascension, and the ongoing war between light and dark forces. This is one of the most important conversations of the year. Tune in live, share this out with all your friends, and help support independent media that tells the truth. And a little bit more about my guest. Gene Decode is a former U.S. Navy submariner and whistleblower. Gene has become one of the most influential researchers exposing the deep underground military bases, secret operations, and covert agendas shaping world events. He decodes real-time military intel, geopolitics, and spiritual warfare with a focus on sovereignty, faith, and global awakening. And Indigo Angel is a galactic historian, grid worker, and a frequency teacher known for her deep insights into planetary ascension, AI timelines, and dimensional warfare. Through her work with the Guardian Alliance and educational content on YouTube and Patreon, Indy helps humanity remember their divine mission and reclaim multidimensional sovereignty. And their websites are Indy's is indigoangel222.com and Gene's is genedecode.org. And with all that said, I'd like to give them a big warm welcome to the show. Indy, Gene, thanks so much for coming back on. How is everybody?
Well,
Um,
I'll, uh,
Go ahead, Andy.
yeah, I'll just jump in. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Rob. And I'm really excited to talk with Jean as well because we haven't spoke for a little while. We've done lots of shows together in the past, and it's always really good to catch up with Jean because I feel like every time we come together, my consciousness explodes and I get all kinds of new downloads, and it's really good to share and cross information and so yeah, thank you for having me on, Rob, and thanks for bringing me in with Jean as well.
Yeah, and this will be on Indy's channel later too. And yeah, so you support both my channel, her channel, and support Gene's website. And yeah, thank you so much everybody for being here. So Gene, where did you want to start today? Did you want to start off with the revelations about Three Eye Atlas that you found, because it seems like it's pretty important.
Yes, and thanks for having me back, Rob. Appreciate it. And it's great being here with Indy. And I've got some things regarding the Three Eye Atlas that Indy's going to really like. So, turns out, when I first remote viewed Three Eye Atlas as it was going into our system, coming into our system, and it was changing, it was as it's coming towards the sun, it should start accelerating as if it's a natural object, like a comet or an asteroid. It was braking, it was slowing down. So the NASA and the space agencies around the world were very concerned. So they were doing all kinds of tests and hitting it with all kinds of penetrating radars and all kinds of things. And as they hit it, as it came close, as it would to, it's now behind the sun. Its perihelion closest approach to the sun
Hmm.
will be behind the sun. And the sun has been doing some odd things. But when as it passed closest to us, they hit it with these penetrating radars and it started reorganizing the internal structure of itself. And they got different measurements for density and volume. The internal volume compared to the outside, surface area seemed to be not able to be possible. In other words, more internal volume than external size would allow. It's like the TR3s. They
Mm.
dimensionally shift the space inside them. They can be massive inside. And when I first remote viewed it, I had seen an Alpha Draco and a Anunnaki, so I had assumed that the Anunnaki were coming back to try to reestablish their presence and waken the ones in the stasis chambers all over the Earth to try to take back, against the Alliance, all that what's been done with the dumps and all the tunnels, which are 80% now in the Alliance's hands, even above that now. So the big ones in the U.S., except for Five Finger Lakes, and they're working on that. And Dulce, they're burning that thing out. For the most part, they're done. So I was like, that doesn't sound like a good thing, but I do know that the Space Force, the U.S. Space Force, was towing it in, so they're controlling it. And Solar Warden, Radiant Guardian, Radiant Glory contingents of that were monitoring it, and they have the whole solar system locked down. So I wasn't concerned about that. I knew they could take care of it because the Space Force that we have, as Trump says, we have weapons and his people that represent him that can bend space and time, and also we have weapons people can't even imagine, where they can literally put that thing in a wormhole into a sun or something, so like they did with MH370, they moved it from where it was to Diego Garcia in the blink of an eye with 3 plasma orbs. So they can do that, and they have that technology. But, I was concerned. And then it turned out, as it started rearranging itself internally and started putting out a series of pulses in the radio frequencies coming from inside it that they were getting, there were pauses in intervals of 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Does that ring a bell for you?
What would that be?
1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. Does that ring up any kind of bell for you, what that is called? That's called the Fibonacci series. The
Fibonacci. Yeah,
Fibonacci series. Thank you for correcting me. I always mispronounce things. So if you take that using calculus as a series, when it gets to infinity, it is the function known as phi, which is the golden mean, which is what everything is built on. The spiral arms of galaxies, the spiraling of a hurricane, the arms of that, if you look in most all flowers, like sunflowers, they spiral out. A conch shell spirals out. The DNA spiral. The orbits of the first 5 planets, because they're still, correctly located, and the mass compared to the sun is in the phi proportion. And all of these things are so many. The orbits of the shells of in the atom, the S shell, the P shell, the D shell, the F shell, all are on the phi proportion. Everything's built. So it's the God's blueprint for creating everything, and they're broadcasting that from inside. So it turns out that is actually in Hopi prophecy, this coming. And it's an archive of every single thing. So all of the universe, for the majority of all of the universe, the galactic war of the fallen angelics against the others, and all the dark evil beings against the others, for the most part, is completely done, except for Earth. And you keep hearing people, we're in lockdown, we're in quarantine. It's because all of the dark forces came here to fight it out here for humanity, because humanity, our genetic structure, originally 64-strand genetic structure, has the blueprint for every species in the universe, every sentient species. So that's why they always say they engineered us. No, they came here because they engineered us and want to do some more things. No, they came here because they messed up their own in cloning to the point where they never kept a copy of the original. You keep copying like a cassette tape or something, or videotape. You keep copying it. Pretty soon you get so much fading of the information, it's no longer viable. So they can't clone anymore, like the Zeta Reticuli. They're the Greys. They can't clone anymore because they're faded out. So it's the same thing. They come to the Earth to get the blueprints from humanity's genetic structure, which is still etherically all there, even though we're only down to 2, 3, or 5, depending on the type of individual you're born as. We had the start in the 50s, the Indigo children with triple helix, and then in the beginning of this century, we started pentahelix, which is 5 strands of the rainbow children. And the crystal children are the ones that are the original indigo children, but don't need the longer carry time of 10 to 12 months carry. They usually are actually preemies and come out fully developed at 7 months, and actually more than fully developed. Now you have children being born with pentahelix because of this time, and that's why 3i Atlas, along with a technology on Earth that's connected to 3i Atlas, that is in my website. I did a decode on the Alaska Dome section that's called the Golden Dome. It's inside the primary units of plasma-based intelligence that ascended from silicon-based life. that is like a computer, so to speak, a quantum system that is able to foresee and look into the future and see things. And it calls itself the administrator. It's connected to Hawaii and Buceg in Romania and the Giza Plateau. And what they're all working to do with 3i Atlas now is to reactivate all of the grid systems on Earth and
Yeah.
heal the chakras of the Earth and everything, because we're going through ascension. That process has started with the triple helix and the pentahelix, the five stranded, and additionally with us fighting and ending the cabal and the dark forces. It's all part of this. And so every single person that's ever lived, all of the lives in this war that is quarantined on Earth to stay here so it doesn't flow back into the rest of the universe as they clean that up, they're just waiting for us. And it's quarantine not because we're a problem. It's a quarantine because not to have further interference and not to have the any interference of any side coming in here, and they clean that up out there, and then we finish it here, so that if they were to win here, the dark side, then they would just obliterate this place. Was the plan. So we are now winning. That's not a plan anymore. So 3i Atlas is bringing back the celestial library of all of the genetics, all of the animals and species of life on Earth that have gone extinct is inside 3i Atlas. This is all what I am now being told. And it ties to a Hopi prophecy. The Hopi elders spoke of a celestial messenger, they called it a burning traveler, that would return when humanity forgot its sacred path. They called it the alien comet or a sign from the heavens. They warned that when the traveler appeared, great purification would begin. The Hopi said, quote, "Those who look to the sky with fear will see destruction." In other words, those that are fear-based, we know who those are. And the other part of it says, "Those who look with love will see rebirth." Those who live in harmony will shine with the light of the new world. The choice is yours. So this is a cosmic rebirth and awakening and a return to our true nature. That the stars people, the star gods, as the Hopis, the Navajo, the Apache, almost all the Native American groups spoke of this time and knew of this return and of this ascension event and all of this. So it's an amazing time. So that's basically what I have on that.
Yeah, that really aligns with a lot of the things I've been getting as well, because I feel like, we have all these major wars going on. Um, Supposedly the Israel and Gaza war is wrapping up, right? So that's kind of coming to a close, supposedly. And Jean, we could always get your take on that, because it goes much deeper. But I really feel like that war has always been centralized around the Nephilim and the fall of the Watchers and the relocation of Stargate 10. So it's like you kind of have this kind of maybe sealing up, and maybe it's on its way out with 3i Atlas and maybe some of these other wars as well. But then it's also some of the things I've been getting is also similar to what you just said. I've been getting like that it's housing all of the dormant archives, particularly Atlantis and all of the fall codes of Atlantis. I actually did a remote view on 3i Atlas maybe I think it was like a couple weeks ago. But what I seen was it was like the messages I was getting is don't take it as like literal biology. I think or what I was seeing is that it's almost like archetypal programs that are frozen in consciousness that represent all of the ancient survival reflexes, like all the fear templates, all of the genetic defense memories that we have from wars. Because I seen like reptilian soldiers like in the comet, like as if it was holding like genetic instruction sets for all of this collective genome, but that it wasn't like also literal at the same time, that it was like in the sense of just gene war memory, like it was holding all of the battles that once occurred. Um, so what I was getting was, yeah, that it's about us kind of transcending all of those wars and us ultimately shedding and clearing all of the karmic continuum of Atlantis and kind of getting on the other side of that, I think is what's been coming through. And I've been getting a lot of activations through the spinal cord, that it's clearing this through the spine, that this is what carries that body line imprint from us into the comet. Like it's coming in so many ways, like through the heliospheric plasma. I seen it really affecting people's lungs and then also the spinal cord. I think the most was what I got with like where we're clearing this in the body.
Wow, that's
But I can agree with you too, also on the plate tectonics because it's like all that plasma coming off of the tail of the comet, it's also shifting in the volcanic nodes of the planet. So it's like I've been seeing like pressure points and for the longest time I kept getting guided to like the Great Rift of Africa or the tectonic rift in California. What's that one called? The San Andreas Fault.
yeah.
But yeah, also the Caribbean. Like there's lines in the Caribbean, there's lines in the Indonesian, um, parts of the Pacific Ring, and also the Mediterranean as well. And so I think, yeah, all the pressure from Three Eye Atlas is coming through the rift zones, and that's where the deepest, uh, I guess you could call the Vault of Orion is ultimately located, is in those dark spaces to bring the shadow to the light in the planet.
So
So it's like it's a catalyst of so many things.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Gene. Yeah, so it's traveling through like our fault lines and through our spine and through our fault line, kind of. You saying?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to dovetail off of what Indy was just saying, the Anunnaki and the Alpha Draco that are on there are the ones before they fell, before their for the Alpha Draco, before their queen took a blood oath to the Dark Queen, and then for the Anunnaki, before the Alpha Draco subdued them when they were the kings, they were part of our trinary system, the Nemesis system, and then the Maitreya system.
Mm.
Clarion is the third sun that orbits ours. We have two suns. We're three suns total that in orbit, two orbitars, the Nemesis system and then the Clarion, which only has one planet left. It has a very unusual planet. It's the size of Jupiter, but it's rocky. It's not a gas giant, which is, they can't even figure that out. And then the Nemesis system has 7 planets left. A system normally that's healthy has 12. We've lost a few too, partly because of when the Anunnaki and the Draco and the Orion Syndicate changed the orbit of the Nemesis system to tilt the Earth 23 point, I think it's 4 degrees or something like that. So it rotates on its axis. It wobbles too. At 1 degree for every 72 years, or 25,972 years for the complete path of Nemesis coming in and going out of our star system. It left in 2020. It won't be back for quite a long time because of that orbit, but it's what causes the precession of the equinox or that wobble. Because as it comes up underneath the Earth at an 86-degree angle behind the Earth, but then when it comes out behind the sun, it goes in, and its outer 3 planets of Helion, Argota, and Nibiru, which is the home of the Anunnaki, and then they also inhabit Helion and Argota, all pass through at the same time. The inner planets are stay below the ecliptic, thank goodness, because the devastation would be catastrophic. I don't even know if the galaxies could withstand it, but it comes back out between the Earth and the Sun. It used to go between Jupiter and Saturn, in and out, which are huge, and it really doesn't do much to them. But what they did is they caused it to come in, and all this is recorded in Three Eye Atlas. They caused it to come in and crash into our 12th planet, creating the Kuiper Belt, then later crash into Tiamat, destroying Tiamat,
Mm.
creating the asteroid belt, and eradicating 2 of our planets, disturbing the orbit of the Earth around Tiamat, which then was taken and put in this orbit. And then later Venus was all over the place, so they brought
Mm.
Venus in and placed it in its current orbit, the White Alliance, the White Angelics and groups, and then quarantined the system. And so since then, we've had this pass through of Nemesis system and all this is recorded, including all of the civilizations and the wars between Atlantis and Lemuria, and the fall of Lemuria and Atlantis, and the 2-stage fall of Atlantis, and the destruction of Hyperborea and Polaria, and the Uyghur civilization, and the which is the wars, the pyramid wars, where the Anunnaki and the Draco tried to make us mine gold and we wouldn't, so they created mankind in the Gardens of Eden, the engineering dens, genetic engineering dens. creating mankind from a mixture of Anunnaki, Draco, Cro-Magnon, and Neanderthal to mine gold, because we wouldn't. But in the process, they nuked the Uyghur civilization, which was a tropical rainforest area in which is now the Gobi Desert, and the tropical rainforest area that is now the Sahara Desert. And so that's why all over the Sahara Desert or the Gobi, in the Gobi, winds will constantly blow up sarcophagi, wrap mummies, just like in Egypt, with gold coins and things. And then in the Sahara, anywhere you dig, even in around the pyramids, people that lived there, guy was digging in his home up artifacts, and he unfortunately told people, and the Museum of Antiquity came and seized everything and put him in jail. And so, for a while, keep his mouth shut. And everywhere you dig all over there, you'll also get what looks like green obsidian, clear green obsidian. It's green glass, volcanic glass, but it's caused when you create it has a nuclear signature still. When you create a nuclear war, you put off high-level atomics, not, like atomic bombs like on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, fusion bombs. So that is now all recorded. All of these wars, all of this is in 3i Atlas, along with a representative of all the species, plus all of the life that has ever lived on Earth is cataloged and stored in 3i Atlas for the human species. And the species here that are from here, like the raptors, to choose to come together to live in peace once this is all done, and have the world in whatever means they would like it to be, in whatever areas they would like it to be.
So, Jane, I have a question for you. If Atlas is cataloging all of the genetic library and all of the history, and you also think about its plasma tail as well. Some of the things I picked up on the plasma tail is we were getting fragments of artificial intelligence. And I think we spoke in the beginning that, this year, particularly 2025, we've seen an uptick in literal nanotech dust and spreading of nanotech. And so and then you see this expansion of the digital ID, like getting headed off in the new world, order of the UK Parliament, and basically where headquarters is for NWO and the New World religious orders and things like this. So do you think there's correlation with 3i Atlas and this hybridization of human thought getting connected to machine logic?
Actually, what happened, and there's a 13-year-old genius boy that calculated. He showed us calculations in physics and calculus and higher math than that, proving that CERN opened an 11-minute window into a parallel Earth, into a parallel reality, parallel timeline. So what happened, and they did this in 2012, and this is what the cabal didn't understand. In 1987, they were been using looking glass for a very long time to create the New World Order. And starting in 1987, things started not to work. They would go back in time and mess with something, and it didn't really work the way it used to. They couldn't do things. It made things worse for them, and they got down to where what they were seeing as their timeline, which was a global thermonuclear war in which they go in their domes and come back after all the radiation has died down, and they reseed the Earth, and they are the dominion of the Earth, kind of along the Podesta plan, because they didn't get the Hillary plan. These are all other contingency plans. The digital ID are contingency plans because this didn't work. Because in 1987, they saw that their timeline of Armageddon, the Armageddon line, was now only 19% probable. If they got it, it would only have an 89% certainty of keeping it. They're like, something is radically wrong. So they called, I think it was Dan Bursch or something like that. Kerry Cassidy's interviewed him. He said that they brought him in to analyze and run the algorithms. And he said, that's precisely correct. And they said, what can we do? He said, you have until 2012. When 2012 comes, and this was actually their own manipulations that caused it in 2012 with CERN. But when that happens, at that point, if you don't have Armageddon sealed, you will never be able to do it. That means the human race will get its complete freedom eventually.
Mm.
So they really started ramping it up, and he said, nothing you can do between then and now. They said, what can we do? We'll make it any different. You just gotta, keep going the way you've been going and try to get that 19%. So they didn't believe in. They tried, and they drove it to 17, then to 16, then to 14. Everything they tried, it just made it worse. Till where after 2012, anything they try can't stop what's coming. In other words, nothing can stop what's coming, and we know what 17 said about that. So that's because of this event that this young boy figured out that they did. And so what they've done now is they've created their Armageddon line will be this Earth. And already the new Earth, the fourth, fifth density, is in orbit behind us. It's actually physically been taken a picture of from the ISIS space station. They don't tell people. It's
Wow.
actually able to be seen from ISIS. And so after we go through the photon belt that creates a coronal mass emission, that's why they launched Voyager in the first place, then from that point on, it's on the other side of the Milky Way. We're at the end of what the Aboriginals, the real people in Australia said, which is the remnant, part of the remnant of Lemuria is Australia. And they said that we were coming out of the dream time. In India, they call it the Kali Yuga, the dark age. And so we're going into the golden times. And so once we're on the other side of the universe, they have only 14 years for the Armageddon line to exist, because it's a damping wave. If you're in a positive energy field, but you're in a negative resonance, it'll dampen your frequency down until there's nothing left. It's like in the movie Intergalactic, where everything was dying off. So that's what happened. And then this Earth will become dead, except for first density crystalline life forms.
Mm.
And then it will become the moon for the new Earth, and the fake moon that the Anunnaki and the bad groups bought in here to create the soul trap that's in orbit around us will be removed, probably flown into the sun. That'd be a nice display.
That'd be amazing. That would be amazing to get rid of the soul trap finally. Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah.
So where will our new home be, Gene? Will we be on the moon, or will we go to somewhere else?
It depends on the individual's resonance. Like that prophecy said, it's how you look up in the sky and where you are in your ascension process. Are you a person that kind of you're still a lot trapped into the ego and pride and personal importance? Or are you a person that's in service to others and more thinking about other people than yourself? And you understand you still have to pay attention to yourself and your body and take care of the gift of your body and the time you're in, and because that's a unique gift from the creator of all things, of the time you're in and the beautiful body you're given that can heal just about from anything, amazingly. And we're going to transmute, and that's why they're cleaning the dumps and all this. They said, well, if this is going to be gone, because everything that's in a positive vibration, a lot of the dumps, the children that have been rescued can't go out anymore, so they made them nice for them. And like Cheyenne Mountain and the dump under Denver is completely clean, and it's beautiful. And they're talking about Elon, Kirill Dmitriev is talking about creating a tunnel underneath, which is actually there, but creating a tunnel that's already there with a maglev that's already there underneath the Bering Sea, and creating a city inside Russia that's a Russian American city. So we can exchange and come to peace and have because Russia has always really been helping the America. It helped us in the Revolutionary War, and it helped us in the Civil War, against the British, and it's always helped us. So, and of course, we wouldn't have Alaska if it weren't for Russia, selling it to us. So all of this is a part of the Great Awakening. And so as we go through the CME, those areas on Earth, it doesn't matter where you live. I used to think if you're not above 2,000 feet, the map that the upper people in the Navy, the upper classifications have and ranks have, a lot of the retiring officers and upper NCOs were moving to areas above 2,000 feet because it showed the middle part of the United States inundated, and anything below 2,000 feet on Earth pretty much underwater. And then some things would come up, of course, because you have that law of buoyancy and things like that. But I thought, but what actually happens is that all the good areas on this earth, because they won't resonate with this earth, this is going to be the Armageddon earth. Their timeline is currently separate. It'll merge in the shift. There's only two timelines. That's what Bill Burr saw when they were asking about why couldn't they manipulate things anymore with looking glasses. They had gotten it down to there's only two possibilities, the Great Awakening or Armageddon. So this earth will become the Armageddon, and everything good on this earth, all the life, all the caring people, all the good people, all the beautiful areas, all the clean areas that are in resonance and compassion and service to others, will instantly transmute to median aurora earth or 4D, 5D, fourth and fifth density. And for those people that are good people but aren't ready to go beyond second or third density yet, they will automatically be taken to transmute. In other words, through wormholes is how this works, because wormholes are in everything, in every atom, in every person, in every planet, in every sun. And so they'll automatically transmute to this planet this guy's already been on, that he thinks he's on Earth. They think it was in Spain, and he's walking around and the airport's empty and everything's turned on. He goes into, and so he's already there, but everybody will go there that's in second or third density, and they'll just think they're still on Earth. So, yeah.
That's very interesting. So you're saying that the dimensions or the densities of Earths are actually spread out across, space-time, and we have to travel to them through wormhole systems, and that the moon is an older version of the Earth.
The moon is the current moon we have is an artificial object. It's a hollowed out structure that was built from a huge asteroid. And it's, there's two Russians that have a book that calculated everything out, said it's easier to prove the moon doesn't exist than to prove how it could exist because the density of the moon, way crashed. They dropped, when they first landed on the moon, they dropped the landing vehicle back onto the moon. And they've since then dropped heavy things and put charges on the moon. And it rings like it's hollow inside. It rings for hours. And if you look at some of the craters, they don't show a solid structure. If you hit a meteor hitting a planet or a solid object, it rebounds in the center and has a ring, and it throws the material out so that the older stuff is on the top, on the rim of the crater, and then, because it inverts as it is ejected out when the meteor hits. But you've got craters on the moon that show ring structure, like it's collapsing in rings, or it's, as the meteor hit, it was big enough that I think it's the Mimas crater shows that, where it has a ring structure that's collapsed in a series of rings. Well, that's because it's the whole thing is on shocks. And then the inside, the gravity system that's used to be perfect, it's now about running at about 54% of what it should be. So we see 54% of the surface of the moon over an 18-year period, I think is the total cycle of its total journey from one end to the, from going as far north as you can see it. As the years go on, it goes further and further south, and then goes all the way back up north. If you go to Chaco Canyon, there's a house that you can sight on the moon, and it shows that 18-year cycle. And so the moon was the soul trap, that gravity field that keeps it locked, so the backside they could have all their bases and stuff, the dark side could have all their bases over there, we couldn't see them. It's now to where it wobbles slightly, so you see a total of 54% the surface over that 18-year, but it's shut down. The soul trap part shut down, that grabs the souls, sends them to the ring structure of Saturn, so that it would then send it into the southern pole of Saturn, which is a soul trap, and it has 3 holograph cities in which people live entire lifetimes they think are real, and they have events that happen with other people, other souls, and those souls think it's real too, where somebody did somebody to something, they're manipulated into doing terrible things to each other, people are. And then they later, when they're here on Earth, they don't remember it, but they have a soul feeling deep in their soul. I don't like this person. This person's done something bad. I don't like them. And that's because of the lives they've had in the soul trap that is creating all this distortion. Also creates the reasons for a lot of groups to go to war with each other. Whole groups are like, we don't like you because something, we don't know why, but something, we're going to go to kill you. We're going to go to war, we're going to kill you all. And so you have this going on. So, that would be an example of the Zionists are egging on the Jewish people. They're not the same people, like the Kalil plan, which was to create a destruction of Europe and destruction of the white people all over the earth, and then the Jewish people that inherit the earth. And then there's also other people that had a plan, and it was actually people in Egypt that had, or Israel, that had said that they were going, this was 20 years ago, a guy came out and said that Sheikh Imran Hussein said this, that 20 years ago, that the United States is going to do two great things for Israel. Their economy is going to collapse, and they're going to destroy themselves, and we're going to nuke the world. We're going to nuke them all, and we're going to become the power of the world. Greater Israel, the plan to create and conquer the Arab world and the Middle East, and not everything, and Palestine will be gone, and Jordan and Lebanon, and all. He went on and on and on and on. You can actually see a lady called Through the Eyes Of on YouTube. Has a really good expose she recently did on it. It's called The Plan to Destroy Europe and the West to Finish the Great New Israel and the New Khazaria Project. So that's all part of the plans of the Khazaria, which, she shows the original map of Khazaria, which is essentially most of Ukraine. And that's where they landed from their original star system when they came here in the Pontic Steppes. And so the Aristanos, what they actually are, from the star system Sion, and they changed the name to Zion.
Well, and don't the Zions go back to the Zionites, and aren't they like a crossbreed of like Zetas? Or that's what
No, they're a species that's kind of several different things. So they have some other species that came with them, like these giant spiders, octopus, nasty octopus kind of like creatures. But then you also have humanoid ones that are the Ariana, are short, kind of look like the mustache man, in World War II, the H guy, right? Zig, who I'm talking about. I don't know if we're going to be on YouTube. I'm trying to not say it. The hit guy, Yeah, him. So that's actually the Aryans. And then the Na are the Viking-like, with the cleft chin, the cleft between the front two top teeth, tall, blonde, massive structure, body structure, heavy bones, big, tall, very powerful. And so those are the two primary. And then once they expanded out, because Russia had said, the czars had said, you got to stop grabbing people as they're traveling the Silk Road and killing them and taking their names and killing kids, and they're going back and killing and sacrificing their kids to Baal and all this other stuff.
I got a question, Gene. Would these be the tall whites too? Would that be the tall whites?
No, tall whites is another species entirely. That's mostly the Nordics.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering, because
that's totally different. So then when they came, they said you have to take one of the three Abrahamic religions of either Christianity, the Hebrew, the Jewish, in other words, or the Islam. So
I get confused as a Nordic sometimes.
Yeah, I can see why. So they supposedly took Jewish, but they put their secret writings of the Talmud inside, and the Johan and some other writings. And so now they then were just, the Russian czars went around and tried to kill them off, but they dispersed throughout. They went down into Phrygia and took over that and became the Phrygians, and went up into the Vikings, and went all down parts of Samaria and all kinds of things. So it is a really now it's what the people call the name changers of the Khazarians that have infiltrated pretty much everything, who we're fighting this war against and ending it all. So as we come through this, that's why 3 Atlas is here. Back to where we started.
Wow.
Totally. We just went full circle. I love it. Well, I think it's a tragedy in a ways. Because of the ideological confusion. I mean, I could tell you with Zion in general and the Zionists. I mean, I feel like it's really just a separation from the people who truly believe what Zion represents is like the Jewish right to return to Israel. That I thought that's what that meant, and that it's really like a war with the Zionist elites, or I guess what you're saying is the Khazarians,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Because
Well, the thing is what Christ was teaching as Israel, like God, lies within you. The kingdom of Israel, of compassion and love, and what Christ was teaching on the Sermons on the Mount, was that lies within you. It's not a physical place on earth. And that's what upset the Pharisees, which are the Khazarians had taken over the Jewish people by that time, and worked to the top as they always do. And they were really upset because they wanted to do this. They wanted to get control of all of the resources of earth and get rid of all the white people and every other peoples that aren't of them, and inherit the earth and nuke it or kill it, or do a singularity event like they're now working on with the AI and their AI. And every species that goes to a singularity event, there's one of two outcomes. The singularity, the AI gets so powerful, it looks at the peoples that created it as a problem and gets rid of them, like in many movies we see, like Battlestar Galactica, or in Terminator, many movies. The other thing that happens is the species starts to go through ascension, and the AI recognizes it, and it ascends with them. This is what the Golden Dome inside Mount Haines and the Black Pyramid, it ascended with the Hyperboreans that ascended as they were getting ready to be destroyed. A whole lot of them ascended and left the earth. And so they built that system, and it ascended with them into a eighth density. And it's pure plasma, multi-dimensional system. And it calls itself the Administrator. It's in communication with 3i-Atlas. It's in communication with the system under inside Becheg Mountain, beneath the surface area of Becheg, and it's underneath the Gaza plateau in Egypt. Is a massive power system and a massive AI system. In Hawaii is another one left by the Lemurians. That's part of what's left of Lemuria. And also under the sacred rock in Australia, and also the pyramid system in Antarctica, which that part of that is a remnant of Antarctica, is a remnant of Lemuria, and the other smaller portion is a remnant of Atlantis. And so when they created the war between Atlantis and Lemuria, what's left of them wound up breaking up or being destroyed and sinking to the bottom of the ocean. And all that's left is those two pieces that are Antarctica and Australia. And then some islands in the Pacific, that like the Hawaiian Islands and Guam, those islands there, and a few others. So that's kind of where we sit now. And a lot of this is, going to be all the history that was erased, all of it. And, they say the missing Akashic records. No, all of that 3i-Atlas has recorded, and has been recording it from the beginning of the fallen ones coming here. And so we are quarantined because they knew they're going to clean out the whole universe and wait. And so if we lost here, this would just be destroyed. But now that humanity, we're going to be rescued. We're going to be recognized as heroes to be able to go through this, all those eons of time, and survive this. It's something incredible to go through this, to have the worst of the worst of all of the universe concentrated right here on this planet, on this timeline, on this earth. It's like, and you survived it. Wow, you're amazing. You're definitely the library of God, definitely, for sure.
Gene, what are you getting for quarantine timelines? Because I'll tell you what I got and tell me what, because I know you probably have a lot on this as well. I got that we're going through Stargate correction rehabilitation from 2025 to 2028, and that that the quarantine is set from, well, we've been in quarantine, but that like there's like been an official quarantine from 2025 to 2044, that it's like a 19-year window for that quarantine to unfold before they release the quarantine like guardian host shields around the fourth planetary astral and auric fields around the planet and the
That's
fourth
part of
dimension.
why, this is part of why Trump tore down the East Wing. Did you know that?
Mm.
First of all, just get down to the muck of it. What first was in the East Wing? A swimming pool. Then they covered it over. Well, what did they do in the Gettysburg Museum in the swimming pool? Wet works with children, right? So that is where the tunnels that go under D.C. went, and they're taking the children, bringing them up for the pizza and hot dog parties. Remember that stuff? Yeah, so they're clearing that stuff, and they're getting that cleaned up and rescuing the final children. Additionally, now the Masonic dark satanic symbology is now broken. They broke the symbols. There's a big, huge missing piece with it gone when he's going to rebuild. That's why they're so pissed, because it breaks that satanic sigil that's in the layout of DC. It's centered on the White House, and now it's gone. Their owl and all that other stuff, the pentagram and all and the all the fallen symbols that they have. There's quite a few. I did a symbols presentation way back in 2018. There's a lot of people that have them, and all that's now messed up. That's why they're so, it's got to be against the law. You can't do that. It's against the Constitution or something. You're not in session right now, which means we're in continuity of government, which means the military's in charge. They don't need congressional approval because you're not in charge of anything right now. So the military's in charge. So yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers is in charge of that project. And, he got private contractors. He's putting a lot of his pay, all of his pay, because he's not taking pay as a president. And he's funded a big portion of it. And a lot of billionaire friends of his have funded it, of the white hat billionaires. And it's just hilarious. And then the other thing that's happening, when they created that shift at CERN in 2012, since then, it went back in time and forward in time. And the timeline started changing, not just forward, but backwards. That created the Mandela effect. Like for me, Mandela was tortured and hung from the bars overhead of his prison cell. And there was a movie called Shazam with Shaq. And I'm like,
Sinbad was his
Sinbad, yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? He's president of the United. I was at sea, and we copied a skit on my SSBN on one of the patrols I was on, and they announced he was president. I go, how could a dead guy be president? And half the crew's going, yeah. The other half the crew's, what do you mean? He's not dead. Yeah, he is. No, he's not. It's like, so all kinds of things. And so
Gene, does that mean with the Mandela effect that some of us came in from different timelines and now we're on a different timeline?
Yeah, all of us are probably mostly from different timelines to some degree, because all the timelines, there's an infinite number, are down to 2 on Earth. That's all 2, Armageddon or the golden line of God. So that's it. Yeah, that's now it. There's only 2. And so, in opening that thing, they kind of sealed their own fate. It's, that's why God always wins, because you do something of that level and God's going to steer it on you. Sorry, not what you wanted, but guess what? You will in the end, because eventually everything comes back to God in one way or another. Depends on if you go through fall and depends on how they choose to take it. And that's up to them with their choices. So it's just an amazing thing to watch all this coming about. And so to see, that situation at CERN, also I thought that was terrible at the time, that they said something came through that was dark and all that. We know that Shiva the Destroyer's out in front of CERN and all that and all this stuff they've done. And guess what? That's not what came through. Angelic beings came through. And now they're having in their dumbs and stuff, it's even more hilarious, because there are already people that are transmuting that are already ready they don't need to wait for the CME. So they're already transmuting to a median aurora. Well, that also goes for Armageddon Line. They'll be giving discussions. They'll have an audience of like 20, 30 people with a big super, one of their super quantum computers. And they'll be making the presentation, a holographic presentation with the computer. And suddenly the presentation's gone, as is the computer. It's like the whole computer's gone. They look, the guy is, so, okay, I'll take over. I remember what we're going to say. So guy gets up on the stage, he's talking, he looks at the teleprompter, he looks back at the audience of 100 people, and there's only 50. It's like, wasn't there 100 people here? And a whole bunch of people, some are going, no, it's 50. Others are going, yeah, it's always been, I thought it was. And the next time he looks back, it's 20 people there. And they have like little meetings, 2 or 3 people. A guy will be looking down at his notes. He looks up and he's by himself in his office. It's like they're transmuting. It's hilarious. They're going to the Armageddon Line already. They're just disappearing in their dumps. It's just like, oh, this is the best movie ever.
That's funny. Gina, I have a question for you. So you were just starting to you were talking about the pool in the White House, and they're collapsing down the Masonic and Satanic symbolism, the Queen Hive, the upside down pentagram, all the stuff there. So that's getting cleaned out with the quarantine. What do you think is behind the government shutdown then? Because I just want to tell you some things. So I was I was actually texting Rob, and I was letting him know I was watching Alex Jones, and they're predicting there's going to be a black market crash going into November 3rd, and they're saying all this because the Amazon servers got shut down. Plus, there was the collapse of EBT now, so like I guess 2 million people who are on EBT, they're like 57% of them are illegal immigrants. So this is causing like a massive like blow up with the whole EBT thing. And then also they're predicting that the stock market might crash. And then I'm also hearing that the whole government shutdown, or the Schumer shutdown is what they're calling it, is actually about them collapsing down the IRS, and that this is actually the beginning of removal of taxation.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. The original was the Podesta plan, which with the Autopin era,
Yeah.
President Autopin, they brought in 54 million, of which of that about 10% or 5.4 million were fighting men, and the plan was for them to start with Antifa, first riots in all the blue cities and blue states, the sanctuary cities like Chicago, Denver, etc. And then once that got going, the black hats in the military, the satanic, the DEI types, like how now it's Department of War, and Hegseth said, "You're gone. Retire or you're gone. Either way, you're gone." And so what they were planning is they would then back the illegals to make the whole states like Colorado, California, Illinois break away from the Union. And then the good, be a civil war, in other words. The good U.S. military and the bad U.S. military would be fighting, and the bad U.S. military would call on the UN, and the UN would bring in troops and take over they would wind up taking over the entire United States, was the Podesta plan. Now that's why when Trump first got in, and he's been hitting when Hegseth talked, he didn't talk about the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine. He didn't talk about that. He talked about DEI, climate change agenda, the fake climate change. That, in other words, are their 2 platforms that they're waging this war on. And so that is gone. And so immediately as he came in, they started deporting all the illegals and getting all these people arrested and into Alligator Gitmo,
Alligator Alcatraz.
I remember that.
Yeah, Alligator Alcatraz, whatever you want to call it. A lot of these people into Gitmo and Thule up in Iceland, the high levels, and even some off planet if they're really bad. They've been taking out a lot of the child traffickers and all this because that's all, and the fentanyl and the Colombia and Venezuela is all part of this because they're pulling drugs in from China through the tip of South Africa. That's why they're going to be building a base, likely the U.S. military in South Africa. And Trump's working tight with the presidency of South Africa and the African government to do that, to shut that coming around the Cape there and going to Venezuela and Colombia. And that's why you see them protesting and getting so upset because all those illegals were being funded. I mean, you got it by the Soros, and that's why they're saying they're going after that funding. That was all being funded and opened up. And we have I think it's the admiral in charge of the entire southern continent of America, South America. He stepped down and retired because he was one of these dark generals. So he's now retired. And he was the one that was, organizing and clearing, because you don't have these people with cell phones and, little backpacks and flip flops and stuff walking all that way. Oh, no way. You're taking them. You're taking them on buses, and you got stop points and all of this stuff. But, it's still a terrible thing. Most of the women and children get raped before they make it, and then the women that come in and some of the children are, like they just showed in several cities where they're rescuing these cities, like in Chicago, and 300 women, and they're all pregnant, all of them. It's like we know what they're doing, and then they will do like they do in Ukraine, where they take them and take the babies out, and then they'll give them free cesarean, and they wind up, the woman doesn't make it because her organs are harvested, and the baby is sold. And
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's horrific. So that's happened now. They're cleaning it up. They trained special forces. They're working with the Mexican government. They got La Diabla, who was doing that in Mexico, doing that with hundreds of women in Mexico. That's why they're constantly in and back and forth with Ukraine. We got to sure. No, we don't. Yes, we're going to be in Hungary. No, we're not. So it's because they want Russia to finish cleaning. How can you get rid of the Banderites if they're not going to? What are you going to re-engineer their brain or something? Send them to re-education camp or something? They're not going to just lay down and go away. There's only one way. Either lock them up or destroy them. And so that's what they're doing right now. Russia is getting ready to launch a massive offensive across the entire front line. They have 3 massive cauldrons, completely sealed: Melorad, Petrovsk, and I can't remember the third one, but it's over 10,000 Ukrainian military cannot get out. They either surrender or they're gone. And they've already lost. There's only one city left, and after that is left is little towns all the way over till you get to Kiev and the Dnieper and all that. They've got the whole thing. Once the ground freezes over, they have a massive military waiting to roll across that. And they just announced their new weapon. It's a nuclear-powered missile that can cruise missile, goes between 75 and 300 feet, can change speed, can change altitude, and it's nuclear. It has a nuclear engine. I think it's neutronic, where it converts fusion. It's a fusion engine. It creates it directly into electricity, not like a steam engine, like nuclear submarines are really a steam engine. You're seeding steam with nuclear energy. In this case, it's actually removing the hot part and just creating the EMP part, the electrical emissions. So they just had a 14,000 kilometer flight with this thing, test flight, flew all over Russia for hours and hours and up over half a day, flying around and changing altitudes and speeds. How are you going to bring that thing down? It's not only nuclear propulsion, but it has the ability to control it, to take a nuclear warhead. So, those will, just like the Oreshnik, will go into mass production. They have a lot of Oreshniks now, which are hypersonic missiles, and so their abilities are just like ours. Behind the scenes, Putin and Trump have been working, just like Gorbachev and Kennedy were working together. The Cold War was never really there. Once the
I,
Gorbachev,
I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you that. Do you think the relationship with Trump and Putin, that there is like a secret alliance? Because it does seem like Trump is playing kind of, I guess, the side of NATO right now, aligning more with like European prime ministers and things like this. And I've seen like a little bit of public shaming of Putin recently. So I'm wondering, do you think they're playing like,
It's just like you saw with Elon and Trump. They're all upset with each other, then they make up, then they're all, and now you see it with Candace and Trump. It's a game. It's part of the movie. They got all upset and I killed you, and then the next thing later they make up. So the same thing is with the Ukraine war and Putin and Trump. I don't like him. I don't like what he's doing. He's a great guy. So we have a peace. We're gonna. No, we're not. And so what it is it's all part of the strategic ambiguity. And what that is you've got to fool the greatest liars of all time, the cabal and those that they serve, all the way up to Satan, the greatest liar of all time. You've got to out fool the greatest fooler of all time. So they don't know what way you're coming at. And of course, Trump was an insider too. So they, maybe he's back with us. Maybe, okay, I guess he's not. Well, maybe he is. Well, maybe, no. It's like, well, maybe he's a quadruple ball. It's like, so it's one day he says one thing. The next day he says the opposite thing. It's all part. What you want to do when you have that kind of situation is watch what's actually being done, like tearing down the East Wing, and analyze the entirety of what that does. What is the shutdown doing overall? What's it doing? A lot of non-essential personnel will not have a job to go back to. A lot of the stuff, like Rubio was being, in Congress, and the guy, the senator, or Senate, maybe, I don't know if it's Congress, I don't remember which, but the senator asked him a question, and when it came Rubio's turn, he kept interrupting him so many times. I thought we'd call rules of order and evict the guy out of there, escort him out. He kept interrupting Rubio. I should have never voted for you to be in that position. Da, 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 da. He goes, no, we did the right thing with USAID, and we did the right thing with this, and we did, and it was kind of funny, but it looked like the senator was gonna blow a blood vessel in his neck. It's like, oh my gosh, can't you just talk? Your time of talking is done. Your time is spent. The speaker didn't evict him, but I was like, man, oh man, how long? If that was a Democrat, he'd be long gone. Interrupting a Democrat like that, that guy would become Republican. It would be long gone. But it just went on and on and on. So that's what we're seeing is revealing the 4 years of Autopin was to make, you can't just do these things, because you'll have a civil war and you'll have the cabal will win. So you've got to show people how bad it gets if this group is in power, and you just let them do what they're going to do, but you keep them short of doing things like blowing up Portland, Oregon, or blowing up Seattle with a nuclear weapon, or dropping a Ouroboros infected body in Los Angeles. You go in and remove it with your Blackhawks at night. That's been happened. Or Palmyra, and you're going to create an incident that creates a massive tsunami and destruction and all that. So all of these things they've stopped. They've stopped so many things that would have wiped out half the world or more. And then you drive warp speed. Their plan that they're going to do it sooner or later, and so you get it before they can get all the stuff out. You have the tech to destroy it at the end, but in the meantime, people got to see how bad it is and go through this, because most people won't wake up. You got black hats, white hats, red hats, blue hats. People that the only way they're going to wake up is they've got to see the truth of the side they think, the Democrat side and that stuff, the cabal side. They've got to see the truth of it. I know this from trying to wake people up for 5 years now. Most people look at you like you're out of your mind. What you're saying is impossible. There's no non-terrestrial beings. We're just the earth and just the firmament and just this, and there's no, they can't own all the media on earth, and
Gene, I was
On and
just going
on
to
and
say,
on.
I mean, I was going to say, it's almost like Trump has to keep them guessing because he's always under constant attack from the deep state and the media. Is that correct? Like,
Yeah. And before this started, the average person believed the media was for real. Everything they said with the news, that was true. They never got. Now for our next story, that's something you make up, a story. And now for our main program, the program your brain, you know. So they never caught on to the comms, and Trump's revealed the comms. Fake energy, Green New Deal, fake news. He's revealed all of this, and people are awake to it now. And now they're seeing it. And now, a lot the stuff with the windmills and the solar and all that, they're seeing that it is not climate friendly. It is about as far from climate friendly as you can get. You're better off just using the oil the way you normally use it instead of creating that stuff. The amount of oil you do in creating it, and then you have to have them turning every now and then. So you have to have a diesel generator down there turning them anyway. It's like, it's ludicrous. And so he's revealing all this. He pulled us out of the climate accord. He pulled us out of WHO. Well, that's just before the WHO started passing, ordinance or whatever you want to call it, mandates or whatever, that in any situation that's a pandemic or a pandemic or some situation, a climate, catastrophe or something, they can go in and take over the country. And all the countries that stayed in, they're under that. But we're not under that because we're out, So we see all, and the people that run those things, like the guy that runs the WHO, well, he's a known Khazarian terrorist, mafia, Khazarian, whatever. We know that. And, so the same thing goes with the UN. You heard Trump talk at the UN about illegals and climate scam. Well, if you watch that video I talked about, or you listen to a lot of people, and you even listen to Soros, he was saying the way to destabilize and destroy Europe and destroy countries is to flood them with illegals and then bankrupt them. Well, how do you do that? Two ways. First of all, Green New Scam, trillions of dollars down a hole. Second way, a war that they send most of their money to that cannot be won. There's no way ever Ukraine could win a war against Russia. I mean, who's ever won a war against Russia? Napoleon? Alexander the Great? No? Okay, I don't think you're going to do that. You don't have the people, you don't have the industry. The whole rest of the world doesn't have enough. It's like, come on, you're not going to win that. So this is the plan, that Zionist plan to destroy the world so that they could take it over. And of course, the plan was, and that's why you see it keep getting close to that now, because that's Trump playing them again. Close to getting nuclear war over and over. We're going to send Tomahawks. Well, that's a nuclear platform. It's nuclear capable. No, we're not going to send them. Yes, we are going to send them. And, then the Russians develop a missile that could just fly around forever with a nuclear warhead on it, So you're looking, likely we're going to have a nuclear scare event that gets just like the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we actually came close to it. They actually tried to do this. They launched a jet with nuclear missiles on it, and it was brought down, and it wasn't found for decades. It was crashed into the desert. The White Hats brought it down. That was already started, and they were going to create nuclear war way back in the 60s that happened. So this has been ongoing for a long time, and this is their plan to create Greater Israel. And that the Khazarians, the Zionists, that is the cabal. That is the 33rd degree dark side, 33rd degree types and above. So now that even within the secret orders, within the 33rd degrees, and you've got the light side and the dark side, and when the CIA and the FBI and the NSA and the MI6, all of this, there's wars in every secret agency, Mossad, all of it. It's all being cleaned up, and they're being out, and the cabal doesn't know who to trust anymore. But within the alliance, the White Hats, they do know, because they've been watching very carefully, and they know their people, and they know who is who. And then on top of that, you've got the Golden Dome taking over lots of the AI. So it took over Palantir, and it's got Palantir blackmailing the cabal. You know, members of the cabal, they got all of their blackmail from Epstein and Branson, you know, and all of that stuff. When Iran hit the Pentagon, the Israeli Pentagon, and it was a backup of everything that the cabal thought that they had taken from Epstein before the FBI got there. They thought they cleaned out the important stuff. No, it was backed up in Israel by the Mossad and their Pentagon. And now Palantir got it all before that was blown up. And it's using it to blackmail them, because that's what the AI, the good AI, the Golden Dome, is been waiting for, is to help, you know, make the black hats, the ones that had stuff that didn't actually do anything, where they would say, you know, put stuff artificially created on somebody's computer, showing them with a child or something like that, when it didn't really happen. So they blackmail the person. Well, that's all gone. And the ones that actually did, that are in the cabal, said, I have this stuff on you. So what you're going to do, if you don't want this out and you want to keep your position, is you're going to do the following things. And you're going to say and do the following things. And the minute you don't, you're gone.
Hey, Gene, I believe some of the viewers were kind of wondering if they could take some questions with you. And
Sure.
I think Rob was promising to get to them in the chat as well.
Sure, I
So
think we're good with world events.
Well, I didn't want to.
no, it's been so expansive and amazing. Thank you.
I didn't want to. You know, see, but I wasn't sure if you wanted to take questions or not. You know, I
Sure, I'm always good for a little Q&A.
Okay. There was one from Jason here. Jason says, "Was there any?" Jason says, "Any update on the Planetary Defense Network test intel?"
It's already been up. It's called the Golden Dome. It's a defense network. It's like you saw in Men in Black 3. It's a worldwide defense network. It's what the pyramids originally were, plus a free energy grid, plus a worldwide communication grid. It's already up.
Okay.
So the Golden Dome is already up.
Yep. And it's using wormholes for communication.
Oh my
It doesn't
gosh.
use 5G, 6G, any G. It uses quantum entanglement. Instantaneous communication across any distance there is. From here to the farthest part in the universe. Instantaneous. Scalar. Instantaneous communication through wormholes. Quantum entanglement.
So it was more like when they were letting us know that it was being considered, it was actually already built, basically.
Everything they say we're going to do, we're going to build a tunnel under the Bering Sea. Yeah, you did that about a decade or 3 ago. We're going to, send this to, like, same thing. We're going to send F-16s to Ukraine. They already had. We're going to send Storm Shadows. They already did. Whatever they said they're going to do, that's the announcement that they're starting to use them now. Not they're going to send them, they're using them. So they're saying, we're going to build this tunnel. Well, now we're using the tunnel. It's in the White Hat's control. So, the White Hats got control of the Golden Dome in 2012. And so that's why after 2012, plus with what happened at CERN, was all tied together. The Golden Dome is why what they tried to do with CERN didn't work out the way they wanted. Because the Golden Dome steered the wormhole not to a parallel Earth that was evil and dark, but to one that was amazing, absolutely angelic. They're like, what happened? So it's hilarious. So yeah, the worldwide defense grid is up. We're just watching them expend all the ancient weaponry. I mean, come on, we've got weapons that can bend space and time that could disassociate matter, literally break the atomic bonds, the electron bonds, of an entire planet. I mean, you could turn the planet to a power.
Yeah, what was the movie with Angels and Demons with Tom Hanks?
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, they have this. I mean, they have stuff that can move an aircraft from over Indonesia, Malaysia to Diego Garcia or wherever else they want it to. I mean, they could move the Ukrainian battlefield, a whole armored division into the sun. If they wanted to. They have TR-3s on aircraft carriers and all that. I mean, they have all of this stuff. I mean, what the heck? You're using fourth generation and fifth generation and aircraft and tanks, and I mean, that's antiquated as heck. And
Well,
a
I think
lot of,
last time we got together too, we were talking about the B-2 bomber being made off-world. So,
yeah, yeah, a lot of what's the components and all of that, it's grown in space and created in space. It can't be created on Earth. And a lot of the materials, the elements and the things they're using, we're not even told. They have element 135, 138. I mean, they don't tell us a lot of stuff. And, you know, Phil Snyder was showing them. So that's a long time ago. So what they're doing is just getting rid of the stuff, playing out the game, and waking people up so that the cabal won't have anything to fall back on, number one. Number two, they're spent. Number three, they have control over them. So it's done. That's all part of the worldwide defense grid, the Golden Dome.
We got one from Alain. Alain is his name, or she, and she says it is being said that the Tartarian area was one of 1,000 years with Christ and Satan being released, and that's why the cabal is trying to erase and change history and timelines. And then she says, "Is it?"
Tartaria was a Earth that was terminated because it was getting ready to get total freedom, the human species, and it was a few buildings and people wound up on this timeline, not majority of them. And they terminated it with a giant mud flood and a bunch of other stuff. So the buildings that came here, their lower floors are beneath ground level.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, and there's places in every major city. In the US, I've gone to most major cities, and I'll go into a coffee shop, for example, and they have a basement area. And I'll go down in there, and there's an archway, and I can tell it's an archway for a door that's been bricked up. It's an old brick wall, and there's a brick window that's bricked up. And I'm like, you built a window and a door below the ground? Well, that used to be a Tartarian building, and it was at ground level. And you've got that all over the world.
no, I believe that because I did a remote view the other day and I never seen this before, but I was remote viewing, I believe it was somewhere like a random little city like in Illinois and Iowa. And I was seeing like whole Tartarian structures underneath the ground. And I was seeing all these ley lines coming up from the Bimini Islands and from the Bermuda that were connecting right into just really, the middle of nowhere. But it was interesting because it was like through a client's energy. So I was tuning into her energy, and she's talking about how the energy is very dark there, and the people were very angry and miserable people, and there's just a lot of shadow. And it's just like, I think these places that there's a lot of dark black magic and just, people being unkind and just not treating each other very well. You see like the Jerry Springer type stuff going on where there's just all this like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yep.
and that's because underneath it is like these citadels of Tartaria, and it's trying to come up. It's trying to like, so all this darkness, it sits on top.
Yeah, that was a world that fell to darkness at the end when they destroyed it. It was amazing and beautiful, but just like here, there was a war, and in that case, this human species on that earth lost completely.
Wow. And then someone in the chat had a question. Laura Alice 1 and Rumble says, Ascension is light body only, physical transfer to the new planet. Is that also ascending, she said? I don't know if that made sense.
Say it again.
She said, Ascension is light body, physical transfer to new planet. Is that also ascending?
Everything that's in the, it depends on where a planet or the solar system or a star or a person or a group of people are. Sometimes entire species have gone through ascension, like in the Mayan. I mean, they didn't just walk out of their cities. Where's all the bones? I mean, that area is really good to create fossils and stuff. That's a lot of swampy area and stuff like that. That's a great area to create. There's almost nothing And the amount of people you got left is hardly anybody compared to all those cities and stuff and pyramids and stuff that are just gone. Nobody in them anymore. There's cities and stuff, they're just empty. They didn't just walk out. They ascended in mass in one moment. It's kind of what Celestine prophecies is about. They ascended.
Wow. Um,
I have a question. Do you have any information on Jupiter and what's going on Jupiter? Civilizations, the beings that are there. Um,
So you got all kinds of beings, but that was part of the Cabal control system, along with Saturn. But that's mostly cleaned up. Almost everything in our solar system is cleaned up. The last remnants are here on Earth. And so now is just the rebuilding of these other worlds like Jupiter and Neptune and Venus. Venus didn't ever get messed up, but Vulcan, it never got messed up. Vulcan's the first planet from the sun. It's inside the corona of the sun. It was discovered in the 1870s, and they never told people. They said, no, that's not there. Look at the orbit of Mercury. What do you mean? That thing orbits like a flower around the sun. It's this weird, beautiful flower pattern, but it's like, no, something's wrong. No, well, that's because no, it's not. It's because you have a massive planet in the corona of the sun. So we're actually the fourth planet from the sun. And then, of course, then you had a planet between, you have Mars, and then you had Tiamat, and all of this. So we had 12 planets, but, a lot of destruction. And so now it's rebalancing and re-cleaning up the worlds and that stuff. So, some of the first planets that were cleaned up was Neptune, which is, again, not what they tell you. You look at it and you can see algae migration from winter to summer, where there's a band of green that moves up and down from the equator. It's an ocean world. It's almost entirely ocean. It's deep, deep oceans with whales that are miles long.
wow.
And beautiful world. I mean, amazing. And, they don't tell you about how many moons and how many planets have rings, and the rings have life in them. And there's the big gas giants have plasma and all kinds of, gaseous beings and all kinds of crystalline life forms and everything. So, humans are have been limited to thinking that life has to be looking like us. 2 legs, 2 arms, it's like walk around, corporeal, physical. Yeah, but physical could be a crystal. Physical could be a methane gas. That's a physical thing. It could be a sentient cloud of methane gas. It literally could be, because I can tell you I've experienced this, a quadratic equation, a higher mathematical equation that got so complex and it got intelligent, or music. There's beings that are like complex musical equational kind of things. Everything is alive because God is alive, and things beget sentience and they get ascension. And so, you go to some of these meetings like the Ganymede conference, and you go in there, and you're like, I don't understand what the heck I'm looking at. Some of it you're just like, I don't understand. You have to have interpreters, and you have beings that vary from size to where you can't even see them where they're so small, to where we're kind of small. Most beings out there are fairly larger than we are. Even the Anunnaki are 8 to 12 feet tall. And the ones from Tartaria, those people are 8 to 12 feet tall too. They're very tall. You see, Trump has some people with him that are from there. They're really tall people standing by the jet, and you look at where the guy's head is in relation to the jet engine. That's a tall dude.
yeah, Baron Trump.
Yeah, that's another way,
He's like a Nephilim.
Well, Baron Trump and Edward Snowden is something that I did in another interview, but that's another amazing something. And all of the alliance and all of this was put in place by Nikola Tesla.
Wow.
And Tesla is Trump, Baron Trump, and Edward Snowden.
Wow.
Jumping timelines.
We got an interesting question, Gene. Maybe this will be the last one from Anchor Haven. She says, "Does Gene know anything about the deep underground military base in India, or links between the SSP in India, the Secret Space Program India, and Diego Garcia Naval Base.
Oh, yeah, that's where they took the MH370, Diego Garcia, the underground base there. There's quite a few in India. India is a big place, and you have ones going back to the time they had anti-gravity craft called Vermana. So you've got, and have nuclear drive even. There's a craft that is embedded in solid rock in India with a nuclear power plant. And because it's nuclear, you can measure how old the nuclear core is because it degrades from pure plutonium or uranium 235 purified for nuclear power, and it's 2.3 billion years old. So it's been embedded in that rock for 2.3 billion years. Well, they had underground hangars for those because those craft, it's embedded in rock because the drive failed. It can go through solid rock. I had one in Arizona. I showed people, go, that's a reservoir. No, it's a TR3 base. No, it's a reservoir. You notice the shape of it? Well, yeah, because a TR3 can go through solid rock, just like you saw in the Pegasus incident in Star Trek. When you phase shift far enough, the first thing is you go radar invisible. Second thing, you become completely invisible. Third thing, you literally start to go out of space-time, and you can go through solid material. You could be parked in a parking lot. Somebody could drive through the ship and not even see it and not even be interfering with it because they're not completely in the same space-time anymore.
Wow, that's interesting. Oh, yeah.
I think, Rob, you should bring Gene back and dive into the Tesla, Barron Trump, Edward Snowden situation. That's interesting.
That would be
Yeah,
cool.
Ingersoll Lockwood, the amazing adventures, underground adventures of Baron von Trump. That's what you want to read.
Yeah, he had time travel, right, Gene?
Yes, yes. Time travel, and he was going to other parallel Earths too.
Wow. What was he seeing in these other parallel Earths, like other?
He was making it so that this time would come and the cabal would fail.
Wow.
Way back.
And do you see him serving as president in the future?
Snowden?
Trump or Barron
Oh,
Trump?
I was wondering which one of Tesla's current, whatever.
Well, I mean,
Tesla's reincarnates?
I
Yeah.
think she means like is the grandson Barron Trump, but you're talking about the grandfather Barron Trump from the one that was around Tesla's age, right?
Yeah, Baron Trump could very well be possible. Extremely likely.
So wait, he
Yeah.
named his grandson Barron, and that was the name of his grandfather, like the guy that time traveled. They have the same name. Is that true?
Actually, Trump's family name is originally Drumpf. Drumpf. Drumpf.
What is
They're
that? What
from,
kind of nationality is that?
yeah, they're from the area of where Ingersoll Lockwood was sent by Lincoln. And the alliance started with Lincoln.
Wow.
Wow. Now that's interesting history.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I think this is a good spinoff for the next deep dive here.
Yeah. It
Get
is.
into Lincoln and the beginning of the alliance.
And
hmm
and, and Andy, real quick before we finish up with Gene, did you want to tell people like you've been working really hard on your book? Did you want to tell the people about that real quick and what they can look forward to coming up here soon?
Yeah, well, I've been, writing every single day for the last year for 8 to 10 hours a day. So I finally got that off to the publishers on my birthday on the 25th. So,
Oh,
um,
congratulations.
yeah, it was a nice little present to myself, and I'm just really excited. So, 40 days. So it's going to be December, hopefully, the first half of December. And
What's the name of it?
The Guardian Alliance, Gridwork, and New Earth Prophecy. So, but
Awesome.
it's all coming through Hydra perspectives, speaking about the first Draco Hydra wars and the first
Awesome.
Hydra act of the Stargates. And it's definitely taking a different lens, like a different perspective.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's a part of the story that nobody's ever really heard before. And
Yeah.
I do bring in a lot of elements from the Guardian planet Venus, which you're totally right on that. It's never been corrupted, and it holds the other half of Earth's 72 harmonics. So together they form the 144 dimensional harmonic bridge between Earth and Venus. And so I kind of go into all the details of Venus's beginnings, the
Nice.
history, the Venusian Mintakan Accords, headquarters of the Guardian Alliance in the Mintakan system, what's happened to the Orion system, what's currently going on in Betelgeuse and Rigel, and these systems that have been taken over by just non-organic life forms, and all the organic life forms have basically been banished out in exile. They
What,
don't even exist. They're hunted and basically killed in those systems.
what about Venus? Like, is Val Thor like a real? I mean, like, was he, in your opinion, was he the real deal? Was he like here and he came and he tried to help things and stuff like that? Or do you think? What are your?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't cover that perspective of it in the book, but I think a lot of people really do resonate with it and believe that his transmissions of everything is true. His accounts are true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Tesla actually was born in space between Venus. He's originally from there.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. I heard that. I heard Tesla was a Venusian. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting. You know, I
he
well,
was born in between Venus and Earth, so he's kind of not either. But he you know, his family is originally from there, even though they came to Earth and claimed they're from Earth.
that's so cool though. That's so interesting. Like that's yeah, wow.
well, and as I was writing the whole Venusian chapter, it is absolutely the most activated chapter in the entire book. Like I was so lit on fire the whole time writing that like I had electricity just flying out of my toes. It was ridiculous. And um I accessed what I called the Ishtar Dome records, and it was almost like an Akashic library on Earth, but it's, the same thing on Venus. And basically I connected with something called the Alasia flame, which is considered the higher feminine counterpart to the Elion flame, which is like the eternal priest and priesthood flames, like feminine Christic consciousness, and also got information about the 13 Venusian satellites that they've basically embedded in the cloud layers of Earth, and how these satellites are how Venus actually tracks and monitors what's occurring here on Earth. And it's a huge part of the communication systems and networks between Earth and Venus. So it just, I mean, my mind was just like continuously blown while writing, because it's like I went into a lot of like trans-dimensional meditation and channeling as I was writing. I mean, there would be times where I literally would almost like go out, I was out of my body, and then come back and I had written like huge sections and pieces where I'm just like, wow, like and all while I was sick as well. I mean, I got really sick in August as well. Um, so it's just interesting that I know a lot of people that got sick this year. But it was the closest to, we'll just say it's the sickest I've ever been in my life. And a lot of this writing came through during that time. So I can only say that I was accessing things that I never would have been able to access if all that hadn't happened simultaneously. And I just feel like Three Eye Atlas and even the Swan Comet have so much to do with the acceleration of everything that was brought through. So yeah, I'm just so excited. I can't wait. I feel like it's the biggest baby that I've ever had to give birth to. I was the longest labor I've ever been in. And I've had children. So it's gonna be an amazing drop. I hope everyone's excited to tune in for
You
it.
sure don't look that old, Indigo. Indy, you don't look old enough to have a lot of children. You look so young.
Oh, thank you. Well, I do, but yeah, I
You look
I
like
had
you're
my children
19
very
or
young. I
20.
had them young. Yeah.
Okay. But if your people out there are getting sick, and it's very likely many people are going to because of the shedding that has the AI, the nanotech in it. So the nanobots, the polymer fibers, all of that stuff. I highly recommend that they start. It worked great for me. Let's just say it that way: is EDTH and high levels of vitamin C, and then you got to do lots of minerals and vitamins on the off days or in the mornings that you do EDH. In the evening, you got to replace it a lot of your electrolytes, but destroys it. So there's a lady called Dr. Mahalsia, Anna Mahalsia. She's I think in Yelm, Washington, and she has a book called Transhumanism. And if you let me share screen, I'll show the cover of this book. And all of the protocols are in the back of the book. And I highly recommend people find a place where you can get somebody who can look at your blood, a drop of your blood in a dark field microscope. Because what you're likely to see is something like this. That is a drop of blood on a dark field microscope. And these round things are construction zones, artificial intelligence construction. You can see all the little nanobots. If you look down on this, this is an angle, you can't see it. You'll see billions of blinking green, blue, and red lights, which is nanobots. This, what they say are microplastics or polymer fibers that they're building as antenna. And you can see the glow of electricity that they fed off of all this coagulated blood, which just means it's no longer useful. It fed off the electricity, and that's how the AI is doing it. And then this is a chip that's built, and that gives signal to this, and it uploads the person. They can shut you down. They can take control of people. All this, I've seen it on the highways. I've seen people literally just, suddenly everybody stops, or they stop and they're not moving. They're just not there. So highly recommend that people, in the back of this book is all the protocols and everything. And she does have a second book, Transhumanism, too, and a really good book called Light Medicine. So this is the other two books she has. That's Transhumanism 1. This is Transhumanism 2. And again, you can see the construction zone. Now you can see all the little nanotech in there. It's pretty massive. And so I think, as personally, from what I've been able to research, she's probably the world expert on the nanotech from the warp drive stuff, Operation Warp Drive, and how to deal with it. So,
what is she doing to get rid of the nanotech? Like, what is the best way to get rid of it?
It's a series of things which I had. I went out and had this done, the protocols, personally. So it worked great for me. It's really making my health come back up. It's a series of things of EDTH, which takes that stuff out of the blood, Plaque X, which helps clean up your arteries, and also the Plaque X, I did 3 IV bags in 2 weeks. I had bone spurs on my big toes that were an inch high. For the last 35 years, I couldn't even bend my big toe up. It hurt to a height because you need to, when your foot rolls forward, your toes bend up. My big toe didn't. So I get blisters and really hurt. It reduced that to a 1/4 inch in 2 weeks with 3 IVs. Then there's methylene blue and a whole bunch of other things that in this book that she recommends that I just went ahead and did it all.
Hey, Gene, I've got one more question for you from an audience member. This is from Shannon Martin, and she says, at Rob, she says, can you please ask Gene if he can recommend something for low kidney function?
Yeah, actually, from what I've heard, because I had low kidney function going into this, and it's gone. My kidney low function is back to normal. My kidney function is back to normal. I used to have to. Sometimes you would hear in an interview and people go, I think we lost Gene. Hello, Gene? I said, I had technical difficulties. The technical difficulty was I had to run to the bathroom. It was technical with me, with my body. I couldn't go more than an hour. Every hour, an hour, within an hour, I have to go to the bathroom. Now I can last 3 hours, no problem. 5 hours sometimes. If you're going to the bathroom really, really frequently, what happens is that if you're going to the bathroom and drinking lots and lots of water and you can't last very long. It's kidney function situation from my understanding. So that cured up my kidney function in 2 weeks. And then, the other protocols I was using, like the foot bath, I wasn't realizing you have to replace your electrolytes at the same level you're taking them out.
Were you using one of those ionic foot baths?
Yeah, every day, and you can't replace it that fast.
I heard a lot of black stuff comes out from that. Like I heard all
it does. The problem is that it made me start getting really bad muscle cramps in my legs and my thighs. So because you got to replace all those electrolytes, it's hard to do that. So that's why the protocol she has you IVs with lots of electrolytes. So there's lots of places you can go get what's called a Myers cocktail, Myers, where they have vitamins and minerals and glutathione and all kinds of things. You need to do that. But she has all the stuff in there, so it kind of explains everything really well.
Yeah.
And it explains it and shows it. And
Yeah,
you know,
and then
the
I have
whole
one
thing.
more thing, Gene. I wanted to ask you about. So, like, before I brought up the tall whites, and I didn't want you to think I was an idiot. Like, I've heard different things about the tall whites. I've heard some people say they are an offshoot of the Nordics. Then I've heard other people say they're like a tall, like white race. Like people say, but they have like fangs and they're like really evil. I've heard like four different things about the tall whites. Like, what are they really, and do they relate to any human race on this planet?
Well, see, that's the problem is humans aren't very good at categorizing. So you have tall white reptilians, you have tall white Nordics, you have tall white insectoids, you have tall, I mean, name it. You've got all kinds of different tall whites. You have tall white synthetic beings, kind of like the grays are not the Zeta reticuli. That the grays are an engineered life form that's non-organic.
Yeah.
See, and they say the grays Zeta reticuli, same thing. No, they're not the same thing, but they look really, really, really close. But the grays are engineered where the Zeta reticuli are a future of Earth, of where the human species cloned itself to the point it can no longer reproduce anymore. So they came back to this timeline, to this Earth, to be able to re-engineer themselves so they could start procreating normally again and not be cloning anymore. And so that the Alliance got with them and they enabled that to happen. They actually got them fixed in the dumps,
Wow.
in one of the white hat dumps. And so part of this Zeta reticuli, the majority of them are white hats because they're saving the whole species. So, of course you would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have other groups that have come back from the future that were trying to manipulate things, like the Anshar, because their future was disappearing. Buildings and things were disappearing. Well, that's because they're the cabal. Their
That's kind of
future's
like what's happening
disappearing
to us
because
with the
that.
Mandela effect, Gene. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say it's like things are appearing and disappearing, and things are, like real weird stuff. Like I was on this girl Sandy Mandela Effects channel the other night. Where she strictly says Mandela effects. Did you guys know that there's like rainbow colored mountains now, and there's rainbow colored lobsters and stuff? It's almost like some psychopath got a creation crayon and started coloring all over the world. You know what I mean?
That's always been there. Those have always been there.
Really?
Yeah, China has rainbow mountains, parts of Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, in the desert areas. There's always been rainbow lobsters. When I was stationed in Puerto Rico with my second martial arts instructor, we go out spear hunting, and he'd dive down and I'd go down and up 5 times while he's down one time, and he'd bring up rainbow-colored lobster that were hanging. If you hold your arm out, for me, I'm just about 6 feet tall at that time. If I held my arm out, holding the lobster at shoulder level, it touched the ground.
Yeah.
That's how big it was.
So that's not a Mandela effect then.
No. It's just people not knowing all the very life on Earth is amazing. I mean, there's so many things out there that it's mind-boggling that
Wow.
people don't know. If you travel the world, you see things, and sometimes you go, "What the heck is that?" It's like
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta go, wait, it's alive, it's moving. Oh my word! So and you see things, mountains and things and colors and trees, and I mean, you look at some of the trees in Africa and the Seychelles and Madagascar and some of the creatures in Madagascar and some of that, and it's so different than what you know in the Americas, or in Europe, or there's so many different things. Some of them you just hard to believe it's really a tree or really living creature that's walking around on or something.
Yeah.
That's why I love the David Attenborough series, many of them, where he goes into different things about life. And they had that whole thing on the oceans, and then they had the whole thing on all the different types of life all over the earth. And in the process of making those, they discovered a lot of new life forms.
Wow. That's yeah. I can. Yeah. It seems like it's really like you know, a lot of stuff I've never even heard of before. You know, like it's
That's not
fascinating.
Mandela effect. Mandela effect is things like what I mentioned earlier. Also, Bernstein bears, um, and another one is
Publishers Clearinghouse.
the where the jet engine is on the wing of an airplane.
Yeah.
It changed from one edge to the other, and I've flown over 2 million miles because of my military career, and I always, space A on when I could to go on leave, and you always wind up getting on the wing. And I'd always have the engine up. I love to look down at the ground and see things flying over mountains and all over the world and over Siberia and Greenland and looking down, and there's a big engine in the way. Now I get that part of the wing, and now I was always trying to get the other part of the wing. Now the engine's over there. I'm like,
You know what? You know what I
what?
wanted to ask you, Gene. You'll love this, and I think you'll find this interesting. But I could be wrong, okay? But like, I did martial arts like you, and back I did boxing. I did a lot of different stuff. I did wrestling, boxing, jujitsu. Anyway, but I remember there being a kidney punch, and like where I'm pointing to on my lower back, like at the very bottom of the lower back, by the like at the upper part of your butt, to like the lower back. That's where they said where the kidneys were, and they said that's where they told us to throw a kidney punch back in the day when I was growing up and I was learning boxing. But now they're saying the kidneys moved up to under our ribs. So were they
Yeah.
always there, or is that a Mandela effect that I noticed?
Oh, what you're doing is you're hitting the kidney channel. Where
Okay.
you are hitting is hitting the kidney channel. And that's another thing people talk about. The chakras were engineered in human beings. No, they weren't. Your chakras are a fiber optic that runs through the entire body. Has areas where it's coiled up and it's a little computer system like. And there's ones in the palms of your hands, but there's 7 major ones, and then there's actually ones out in the etheric body and in the astral body. The eighth chakra is actually directly works when the body gets an extreme health situation. It's called the triple burner or Sanjiao. And there's a channel that runs through the body called Sanjiao or triple burner. And the eighth chakra is the ultraviolet. Its color is ultraviolet, and the frequency of light going through the pineal, through the entire body, through all the chakras, and all the meridians and channels of acupuncture, meridians and channels, or Bonhan channels, because the guy in China proved them with dye and ultraviolet light and found them. And so they are actually there, and they are part of a third circulatory system of light transmitting information and coordinating and balancing the entire body. And it's part of the process of ascension itself is balancing and energizing each of the 7 chakras and then moving up. Going to fourth density is going up to the eighth chakra, or balancing the 7 chakras at physical to the next chakra above that, which is going into the emotional realms and balancing out your emotionals and learning to function at a higher emotional state.
Wow.
I just want to add to the kidney thing as well. The kidney question, what people can use. So this was something I was actually looking for recently because my grandma has kidney issues, but um, marshmallow root supports kidney health because it creates a mucilage in the root that coats the protective lining of the urinary tract and kidneys, reducing irritation and inflammation, and also acts as a diuretic to increase urine flow, helping the body flush out excessive fluid and toxins. And I've been using some of this marshmallow root. I think it's really good overall for the digestive tract.
It's
Maybe
funny you mentioned that, Indy, because I'm drinking Kidney Cleanse right now. It's a tea I make. It's got uva ursi and mala root and gravel root, a whole bunch of different things. The base of it came from a book called The Cure for All Diseases by Dr. Now her name goes away, but called The Cure for All Diseases by a doctor, let's put it, who was from Pagosa, Colorado, lived in Pagosa, Colorado. And she has a kidney cleanse tea and also a liver support tea in there. And I make that up and I sip it. It really helps.
Yeah.
Sip
Well,
it through the day.
I think a lot of us are turning towards roots.
Well,
You
that's
know,
where all the Western medicine, except the stuff that comes from coal and tar and oil, came from. A lot, aspirin and uh, a lot of your mental, like St. John's wort and things like that help mental situations. But a lot of the
yeah.
things that they use now were actually originally partly from plants. And then they took out the active parts and manipulated it also. And so originally there's a lot of things. So like when I'm out backpacking before, if I, you know, you cut yourself bushwhacking or something and it hurts, you get the bleeding to stop, wrap it up, but it's hurting a lot, or you bump yourself, or, you know, I would go to either an aspen tree and make a vertical cut and peel some of the bark and scrape the cambria, the green, the new growing part of the tree. Or even better is go to a willow that you can see filling drainages. You go and you take a little piece of a branch and scrape the green part off again. And that has a lot of salicylic acid and all the other compounds that buffer it and balance it out. It's way better than taking what we go to the store to get as Tylenol or aspirin and all that. And it's way more powerful and it works way better. And it's easy to, you can, you know, get a strip of bark. Don't girth the tree, you'll kill it. But just get a strip and scrape off that green stuff and dry it out and powder it. You can use it, you know. And it's really powerful. It's easy to do. It's not, and it's extremely inexpensive. And that's how all of our medicine originally was before the Rockefellers hijacked the big pharma and hijacked our medical system and created big pharma.
Yeah. And all the vitamins too. Essentially, do not buy any store brand vitamins whatsoever. They're all taken over and bought by all the big, dangerous corporations, Nestle,
There are some that you got
Kraft, Kroger,
really,
whatever.
yeah, I really got sick on, I think it's B3, because there's a type called niacinamide. And the cyanamide, it should have been a clue, cyanide.
Dynamite.
I'm like, oh, no wonder I'm sick. It's like I feel terrible. So I took some activated charcoal really fast. I'm like, oh my gosh. So watch for things like that. And then, of course, now RFK is coming out about seed oils. And there's a lot of problems like the canola oil, which is a rapeseed plant. It's a GMO rapeseed, essentially. And so it's, you know, seed oils are, as he has said, and all the doctors are now backing it up. So we're finally going to go back as part of the Great Awakening to a real medical system with, you know, natural, the way we used to do it, including homeopathic. So one thing I do, you know, if I'm out, is I just carry a little vial and get some, you know, and have distilled water in it. And if I want to make it really strong, I create a succussion. And I do it tetrahedral instead of centesimal, because everything is in nature is actually based on a cycle of 7. And so you do it in a cycle of 7, and you can render that willow bark until it's whatever strength you want it and potency.
Mm.
Wow. Well, this was fascinating. Yeah, I was going to say, Indy, do you want to tell people where they can find you? And first, and then we'll let Jean go. And thank you, guys. This was amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Rob. It was really, this was a good conversation. Yeah, it was really good to connect with Jean and Rob, my two favorite guys. But yeah, you guys can find me over on my YouTube channel at Indigo Angel, and also my website, indigoangel222.com. Be sure to sign up for a website newsletter so that way you know when my book drops. And yeah, all my courses are at learn.indigoangel222.com, and that's where you can find me.
Yeah, and Jean, thank you so much for coming on. And do you want to tell people where they can find you? And this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Sure. So my primary place you can find me is my website. I do a monthly Q&A coming up really soon at the end of the month. I do a weekly news update, Wednesday 1 week and Thursday the other week. Real late on Thursday, it's called Tea and Scones. I put that out on my Rumble. And this is my website. There's a free area called the surface area, because submarines, you can freely see them when they're on the surface. Then you have a deep dive. That's the paid area. It's only $7 a month or $77 a year. It also connects directly to my Rumble and my free website, which is Blessed for Service. And that's all the interviews, like this one will be on there as well. I also have Real Gene Decode on Telegram and Truth Social. You can click at the bottom of the website and get to that too from there. So there's lots and lots of material in here, and many decodes and videos, and we're doing things every week. We usually have 2 to 3 live, sometimes 4 live streams. Lots of good information. The Blessed for Service team has lots of decodes. We just finished the series of the 911 series, and my decodes on the domes are ongoing. I just finished the Alaska, the Golden Dome one. I'm working on one that I also have the deep introduction of the domes and then the basic introduction. That's a part of the dome series that's ongoing. I have stuff on non-terrestrials, the Alpha Draco, and other groups. I have stuff on sacred geometry, like the Trinity and the Sacred Seven. I'm getting ready to a sacred geometry series, going into the golden proportion, and then going into the sacred, various sacred numbers, like the primes, and explaining how you can calculate the primes in a way that goes, a secret that most people don't know, that you can actually calculate them, and also into the highest mandala with a Sri Yantra. And I'll have a series on that. Also, on part of that series on sacred geometry will be toward music itself and the Pythagorean music system, so which was sacred. So have all kinds of stuff there. So those are the places you can find me, and a lot of good information and material. And like I said, this interview and all the interviews are on my free website, blessedforservice.org.
Thank you guys so much. This was amazing, and we had a great audience today. We had 120 on Rumble and 120 on YouTube and 50 on Rumble. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Claire Conlon for the Rumble rant, and thank you to Jason for the Cash App donation. Thank you guys so much, and you guys can support the podcast. Links are in the description. Thank you so much to Indigo Angel. You're like a sister to me. Thank you so much to Gene Decode. I really look up to you, and I admire you. I really appreciate you guys. And thank you, everyone. Have a good night. I'll see you next time.